global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Global Happiness Today YouTube channel. Professor Wale Soyinka, there was a build-up of the election in 2023, and most Nigerians did not know what went down between him and Peter Obi. Although he did tell Nigerians that for the sake of the nation, that Peter Obi should not run again in 2027. I wonder why. I'm going to find out some of those reasons. But he said something very unique. That during the visit of Peter Obi to his house, this is what he saw. And it's sparking reactions on social media. But then again, while we're looking at it, he also talked about Nnamdi Kanu. His standpoint of Nnamdi Kanu is not only refreshing for some persons, it's also different. This is one person who seemed to stand, regardless of whose opinions or whose is being God, he stand by his word. And this time around, he seemed to be in sync with what is going on with the Biafra agitation. Let's go through as we match these two very interesting news together. The Professor Wale Soyinka has said the only problem he had with the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, MNK, was his language, which he described as disrespectful and insightful. In a recent interview, Professor Wale Soyinka noted that Kanu did nothing. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did nothing wrong by calling for a separate nation of Biafra, noting that the separatist leader was never accused of physically bombing any place or bringing down anyone. He said he is one of the younger generations who inherited a burden of defeat, of resentment, and a determination in their view not to make the mistakes of their predecessors. They have a new will. They have a new understanding of history. The only problem I had with it was the language Mazi Nnamdi Kanu used over Radio Biafra. I listened to some of it. Very incendiary and also disrespectful. I thought of even his own people. I don't want to go into details, but all you have to do is listen to it. I used a certain expression in certain contributions. Those of us who stood on that side, we fought for a Biafra of conscience, and for me, that is very critical. Like people like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu should not, IPOB or MASOP, that's Movement for the Actualization of Sovereign State of Biafra, for that matter, should not act against what I call the core of our human, which is one of conscience, of course. Now, he also described the detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu by the Nigerian government as a mistake. Kanu was extraordinarily renditioned to Nigeria from Nairobi in June 2021 by the former President Muhammadu Buhari administration, which, with the help, of course, of the Kenyan government, and the separatist leader has been detained by the Department of State Services since he was brought to Nigeria in June 2021 and is facing charges related to broadcasts alleged to have been made in furtherance of terrorism. Now, however, Soyinka described the action of the Nigerian government as kidnapping. Now, while that is going on, of course, the president of Wale Soyinka spoke also at length on what his view was during the time he had with Peter Obi in the build-up of 2023 election. In 2023, Obi visited Professor Soyinka days after the latter came under criticism on social media by LP and Obi supporters or obedient for forcing some remarks made by Dati Baba Ahmed, vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party. The literary icon had described Baba Ahmed's comment as fascistic language. Now, the renowned playwright had in a statement said obedience wore their refusal to accept constructive criticism as a badge of honor while addressing the online attacks as against him. Now, Obi later attacked the purpose of their meeting as reconciliatory, which was denied by Professor Soyinka. Soyinka, in a statement issued after the meeting, said there was simply no issue to reconcile between him and Obi or the Labour Party. He said he wished to state clearly that the word reconciliation inserted into some reports about Obi's visit to him on Sunday, May 7, 2023 was inappropriate and divisionary. Let me clarify, he said. I know the entity known as Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party (LP), I can relate to him. I know and I can relate to the Labour Party on whose platform he contested elections. There are simply no issues to reconcile between these two entities and myself. However, I do not know and I am unable to relate to something known as the obedient or the obedient family. Thus, albeit in a different vein, any notion of reconciliation or even relations, positive, negative, or indifferent, with such a spectral emanation is simply grasping an empty air, he said. And the Nobel laureates added that during their meeting or that meeting, there was nothing like reconciliation. It simply did not arise. By contrast, there were expressions of burden of leadership, responsibility, apology, pleading, formal dissociation from the untenable, all the way to the tragic ascendance of ethnic cleavage, especially under such ironic, unattainable circumstances. Discussions were frank and creative. The notion of reconciliation was clearly not applicable. It was never raised, he stated. Now, speaking further on that, Soyinka, in a recent interview, said he realized that Obi was in control of the obedient who trolled him online. Soyinka, who said he hoped Obi would not contest the next election because he and his team had proved to be incompetent to lead Nigeria, saying, "I hope for the sake of the nation that he doesn't express interest in the next election, because for me as a leader, if there was any proof that he was unfit to lead that country, is in the conduct which he encouraged among his followers. I know for a fact, and I can give you an instance which proves that he was in control of those forces." Narrating an incident when he knew that Obi controlled the Peter movement, trolling people with opposing views online, Professor Soyinka said it's simply because when he first came to visit me, he did come at one time, and I watched him. I watched his actions, body language. It seemed to be very conciliatory. I remember the moment when he took out his mobile device after he made a statement like, "Oh, don't worry, you don't have anything to worry about these people." He was talking about the obedient. I remember he took out his phone and he typed a message there. I was watching him very closely. I didn't say a thing. And after that, everything seemed to be nice and cozy. And I know, or rather I saw, and I read a statement about that meeting afterwards. The statement was a contrast to what actually happened, what we discussed, and I mentioned it in my response. Soyinka said it was a misrepresentation of what happened, and I made sure that I put a statement out saying, "No, I am sorry, this is not what was said, the language never came into it." He said, on the contrary, this is what happened. And so when I meet somebody who is incapable, even at a meeting which is supposed to be reconciliatory or being completely honest, I look at that person and smile to myself. Of course, when I got a Stellenbosch and I was asked a question about this, I repeated exactly what I had given offense, only this time I made it even stronger. I said Peter did not win this election thing. I tell that again, Peter did not win this thing, which is election. So I let them again to go on the rampage, and I went on about my own business. Don't take my word for it. There were witnesses at the meeting. He came with two people, and one person was from my side. Asked them. The statement he put out was not a reflection of what went on at that meeting, which I very reluctantly considered. He said there was pressure on him not to allow him Obi into my house. He rebuffed the pressure. He said, I said, why not? Let him come and say what he wants to say. I want to see him face to face, study him, leave him an opening and then act on them. And these are all the words of Professor Soyinka. I guess he has his personal opinion, and he's a man who knows what he knows. Everybody with their own. Then again, he's saying something very strange that most Nigerians don't believe, which is that Peter Obi has absolute control over the obedient movement, and he believes that Peter Obi tells them what to do per time. He's entitled to his opinion, but I personally believe that Peter Obi will not do that. This is just my personal opinion. I totally differ from what Professor Wole Soyinka is saying he has his opinion, I also have mine, and I'm entitled to mine just as he's entitled to his, with due respect to him. If Peter Obi had the intention of causing any, with the kind of control he say he has, at that point when he was told that he has lost the election, he would have known what to do and there would have been protest. But he never did that, which means he's still a man who understands the dynamics of good governance. But then again, what do I know? That's a good wrap it up. Let's meet in our comment section. What's your take?